It's Monday, and I'm going to talk about my story today. Thank you to every single one of you who sent DMs yesterday, who commented on my post from yesterday, who commented on my story about what you wanted to hear me speak about, teach about, talk about. I told you that I'm going to dedicate myself to trying to go live every single day for the next month, because I know that there are so many newbies here that I haven't connected with. And if you're here, I want you to know how grateful I am that you're here. And I realized, because two of you asked this question, how did I get into somatic work, that I've never actually told you all my story. Unless you've seen me speak on stage, you probably have no idea how I got here. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today on this live. So if you're joining in, say hi, because we are friends and you are family. And if you're here, I hope that you'll stay here and that you will learn and you will absorb. My whole reason of being on this channel is to serve. Everything that I do in my line of work, inside of my containers, really in the way that I live my life, it's all of service. And I want all of you to know that if you are here and you are watching, I'm just so grateful that you are here. So say hi. Hi, Bridget. Say hi. Let me know where you're joining in from. I would love to call you out and just give you a virtual hug. Know that it's coming from me. So as you take a moment to join and introduce yourself, let's jump into the story. And if you have questions, full disclosure, I'm horrible about seeing the comments. Things come in so quickly that sometimes I can't catch them. So I always try to go back after the fact and answer them. So if you are watching this as a replay, or if you're here and you have a specific question and I don't answer it in this live, send me a DM. I am in my DMs. Yes, I do have a team, but I am always in there every day. So if you are getting a message, it's from me. So feel free to ask me questions there. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got into becoming a somatic experiencing practitioner and really diving into and dedicating my life to somatic work. So not to bore all of you, I'm not going to go back to the beginning of time, but I am going to talk to you in this story about my life about 8.5 years ago, because it was a really pivotal moment in my life. So 8.5 years ago, I had a very different life than what I do now. If you were following me on social media at that time, and I used to get this feedback all the time, it looked like I was living the epitome of a highlight reel. My business was booming. At that time, I was still coaching, but I was coaching more in the business realm, and I was doing general life coaching, but my practice was taking off. I was being featured in NBC News, in the New York Times. I had a couple of television interviews at that time. My business really was thriving. Externally, it looked like my business was thriving. I also at that time was traveling the world. So I was going to France, I was going to Spain, Ireland, with all my friends. My friends love to travel, and we were just on this dedicated path to seeing the world. So I was traveling all the time. I also had what I like to call my Ken doll boyfriend, who was with me. He was also traveling with me. And it looked like externally, I was living this highlight reel life. And the reason I like to talk about this part of my story is because we often forget that what we see on this screen and on this platform, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it is a snapshot. Okay, it is a snapshot into people's lives, and it's only the best highlight reel of people's lives. All right, so I was living this epitome of a highlight reel. It's also really important to note that at this time, I was doing all of the things that we as successful entrepreneurs and human beings are taught to do. Okay, I was reading one personal development book every month. I had a whole team of coaches and therapists. I was reciting my morning affirmations every day in front of the mirror. I was eating healthy. I was exercising. I was literally doing it all. Everything that you're supposed to do in order to be successful and have a great life. And it was working, right? Everybody was seeing it externally. But what people really didn't see was that underneath all of that, I was playing, the analogy that I like to use, I was doing everything in my power to keep the plates from crashing to the ground. I felt like I was constantly in this state of I was manic all the time. Like, was trying to be present for the boyfriend, was trying to be present in the business, was trying to be present for friends, was trying to take care of my health. I was exercising to the nth degree every day. I was, being so strict with what I was putting in my body in relationship to food. It was like everything was so calculated that it felt overwhelming. And I had what I like to call my rock bottom moment. And this is when the proverbial rug was ripped out from underneath my feet. So as this highlight reel was playing out in my life, I had one day, a 24-hour stint that changed everything for me. And this 24 hours is what catapulted me into somatic work. But let me tell you what happened. So I received 3 phone calls in a 24-hour period. The first phone call, I'll never forget it, was standing in front of my mirror, reciting my morning affirmations. And I looked down at my phone to see several missed calls from my boyfriend at the time, from his mother, calling to let me know that he had checked himself into rehab for the 6th time that year. So that was call number 1, right? Call number 2 came a couple hours later. This call was from my accountant calling to let me know that my business, like my seemingly booming business that everybody was seeing, right? It was being featured in NBC News, New York Times. This is why you cannot trust things that you see on the internet, you guys. My business was $30K in debt, and my accountant was calling to let me know that we were spending money quicker than we could make it, and we were on track to be another $30K in debt in a month. So that was going to be $60K total in debt in my business. And he was like, we have got to figure something out because everything's plummeting to the ground. That was call number 2. Then call number 3 came a few hours later from my doctor calling to let me know that a biopsy I had taken earlier that week had come back as potential cancer. So here I was, living this highlight reel life, doing all of the things that we are preached to do as successful men and women. Going to therapy, reading personal development books, eating healthy, working out, reciting my affirmations, sitting in meditation, doing it all, you guys, all of it. And it all came crashing down. And it was in that moment that I had, and I don't know if you've ever had a rock bottom moment. That was my rock bottom moment, one of them, that I realized something isn't working. Like all of this talk therapy, all of these hundreds of thousands of dollars that I have poured into coaching. I had literally a coach for everything, a coach for business, a coach for mindset, a coach for relationships. Like I had so many coaches and so many therapists. It wasn't working. It wasn't sustainable. And I was so burned out and I was so out of answers. And at that time, I remember my best friend was living in Chicago at the time. She's still there. And she said to me, hey, I know that you are tired of spending money, but I have been seeing this somatic therapist and I really think that maybe you should give it a go. I know you've built all this wild success. I know that you have all these coaches and all these therapists that you're talking to and verbal processing all your stuff, but I really think that you should this is kind of a new thing and you should give it a try. And I was like, the only reason I said yes is because I trust her with my life, my absolute life. I said, fine, whatever. I'm coming to see you in a few weeks. I'll just book a session. And I remember walking out of that session, like I could viscerally still feel it. I remember walking out of that session and feeling for the first time in my life what it felt like to be connected to my body. And it was and I grew up as a dancer. I know what it feels like to be in your body, but I didn't know what it felt like to be connected to your body. I didn't know truly, I didn't have the words to be able to explain what it felt like to be in a constant survival response all the time. That feeling of the plates are going to drop, that feeling of overwhelm, of ruminating thoughts, of worrying all the time, of staying with a man 6 times through rehab because I thought I could save him. Even though cognitively I knew that I couldn't. Cognitively, I knew I was repeating a pattern. My nervous system kept repeating it. I didn't have the language to be able to understand why my body kept repeating these patterns. Like, all the talk therapy in the world wasn't working. All I was doing was just spinning in circles. And it wasn't until that first session that I was like, there's something to this. So fast forward, this is kind of the exciting part. I dedicated myself to just going to diving into somatic work and to understanding it. And I started with breath work, then I started with somatic movement through yoga. And I would have moments of relief, but it wasn't until I saw a somatic experiencing practitioner, a somatic therapist, and I started doing actual trauma and somatic renegotiation work that I started to actually notice huge shifts in my life. Okay, I went from only dating men who needed to be saved, alcoholics were my go-to finding my first healthy relationship at 32. Pretty crazy. I had never experienced it before then. I also went from being almost $60K in debt to making that in 1 month in my business. I will never forget, it was the biggest cash month I had ever had because I actually, my nervous system had the capacity to hold that amount of wealth. I didn't actually believe that I was worthy of holding it. So that's why it would come and go. I was having this vicious cycle, right? And I eradicated my cancer scare. I went in for my follow-up appointment and the doctor was like, we don't have to go through with this procedure. There's nothing here. So after that happened, I said to myself, there's something to this work. There's something here. And because there's something here and my whole life is turned around, I am going to dedicate myself to learning it, embodying it, and teaching it so that other people, other women and men, I work with men too, can have the same experience that I've had. And that's what's happened since I dedicated myself to truly learning the language of the nervous system and I became trained as a somatic experiencing practitioner, which if you're in the therapy and you're in the personal development world, you know is not an easy task, right? They don't accept everybody into the program. It takes years to complete. You have to do case consults. You have to do personal sessions. You have to attend really long trainings for 6 to 7 days at a time. It is intense. It's trauma renegotiation work. And so that is my story of what led me into the world of somatics and the world of trauma renegotiation. And as I was kind of navigating all of this too, I realized that now everything, they put somatic in front of everything. Like you can have a somatic coaching business and a somatic business leader, like somatics in front of everything. There is a difference between somatic modalities, like breath work, like tapping, like EFT, and somatic renegotiation, trauma renegotiation work. I, as a somatic practitioner, am trained in being able to track the nervous system, to know when your body is going into a survival response, and to intervene with what we call a counter vortex so that we can start to renegotiate these survival responses inside of your body. So many people have spent the majority of their life working on the 20%, which is cognitive awareness. Chances are, if you're here, you have purchased a million courses, you've probably had a talk therapist forever, you call your best friend and ruminate about your problems, but you feel like nothing really moves the needle. It's because you've only addressed 20% of the healing puzzle, which is the cognitive work. The other 80% is the nervous system. It's how your body responds to what you've experienced in the past that was too fast, too much, too soon, that created a stuck survival response inside of your body that you continue to relive over and over again. Right? I knew that I attracted, quote unquote, men that needed to be saved. I could have told you verbally that pattern, but I wasn't able to break it inside of my nervous system and not feel familiar in that dynamic of chaos until I found somatic work. And that is why this work is so profound. This is the work that I teach inside of all of my programs. Right? Inside of the collective, I hold your hand and walk you through that. I walk you through discovering your dysregulated nervous system patterns, what's actually keeping you from the wealth, the health, and the relationships you desire, How can we use somatic therapy and somatic experiencing to renegotiate these responses so that you can shift your baseline in your system from protection, survival, to connection and safety? And then how do you use that to actually attract the things that you desire and feel worthy of receiving them? Deep intimacy, abundant levels of wealth, feeling like a temple inside of your body, and really knowing what it feels like to be in a healthy vessel. All these things are possible. Like you guys have probably seen my wins of people that manifest money and they manifest relationships and babies and marriage. It's because they feel safe enough in their nervous system to receive it for the first time in their whole life, and then it drops in. That is what I hold your hand in the collective, and we do this together, right? If you come into my home membership, you get to hear me teach about all this, right? Something that I launched last week, which most of you have signed up for, I have a masterclass at the end of this month. It's for $47, super cheap. It's called the Embodied Leader. And I am teaching you, if you are a leader, if you are a coach, if you are a therapist, if you are a healing professional, I'm teaching you how to identify trauma in the system and how to eliminate talking in circles with your clients, giving them mindset hacks, telling them to breathe, which in turn re-traumatizes the system, right? You don't have to be a leader to attend this masterclass. If you want to learn more about the nervous system, you should come. But all of these programs are all centered around how do we learn the language of our nervous system and use somatic renegotiation so that we can actually start enjoying the lives that we desire for ourselves. So that's my story, and that's how I got into this work. I am so passionate about this work, clearly, and it has taken so many twists and turns. I was working primarily in the dating and relationship space, and as I worked in that space for about 2 or 3 years, I recognized that so much of the work that I was doing with women was so much deeper than just dating and relationships. It was shifting the way they related to everything, their health, the way they called in money, right? Yes, romantic relationships, but ultimately they were coming back home to themselves so that all of the things they desired in life were possible. That's what I teach you to do, right? So if you want a healthy, loving relationship and you don't have it, or you're attracting toxic men or men who can't commit, it's because your nervous system is operating in a baseline of survival over safety. And until you renegotiate it, you're going to continue to attract the same things over and over again, right? It's science. So that's my story. If you are interested in doing this work, you should come and do it with me, right? You can drop ALC to apply for the collective in the comment box if you want the application to come into the collective. I curate the women that are inside that container. If you want to come and learn more about the nervous system, you can comment home and come into my home membership. That's open to anyone. And if you are a practitioner that wants to learn about somatic renegotiation, drop the word embody and come to my Embodied Leader Masterclass. I want to teach you how this work works inside of your practice so that you're not re-traumatizing your clients. So that is my story. I want to know what questions you guys have. I'm also, again, going to be going live every day. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart for all of you who ask questions. I'm excited to do these lives because I'm going to get to dive into some really interesting topics that I usually only go over in my master classes. So make sure that you check back every day. I am going to be traveling next week. So even though I'm committing to every single day, life happens. It's part of knowing your system, right? Might be days where I'm exhausted and I can't show up live, or I'm traveling and something happens, but I'm committing to being here as much as possible to be able to pour into you and serve all of you. So I love you so much. Drop questions, drop ALC home or embody in the link below or in the comment box below if you want to come. If you do not receive a link from me right away, send me a DM. I am in the DMs. And I'm here to serve you, and I'm here to connect with you, and I'm here to love on you. You are family if you are here, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So I will see you guys tomorrow for the next live. And if you have questions about my story, or if you resonated with anything that I spoke about today, if you saw a part of yourself in the story that I just told you, please let me know, because I want you to know that you're not alone. And there is a reality that does exist where you can have a very beautiful life. That's what I have now. And it's sustainable. It's not a life that looks great on the outside and is a wreck on the inside. There is a reality that does exist where the two things align. And you can have a really beautiful, centered, happy, safe, secure, abundant, intimate life. It is possible. And I want you to hear that from me. It is possible for you. So I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.